Hey Pokemon fans, welcome to Poke Playtime. I'm Kieran, and today I'm going through a quick deck analysis for you guys. A deck that I've built up myself mostly, a little help from others, but I enjoy playing it, and I want to talk you through it now because I think it actually could be a good deck going forward. Well, maybe in the near future at least. Anyway, so the deck we're looking at today is Primal Kyogre EX. So I'm going to talk you through the 60 cards that I'm running in it, and give a little brief rundown as to why I'm running each card in it. So, fairly obvious why I'm running the first lot of cards, but we'll go through them anyway. The first card in the deck, it's a 4-count of Kyogre EXs. So, can't run the Primal without the Kyogre unless you're running some sort of mad Archies list, but I'm going to stick to basics and run just the 4 basic Kyogre EXs. So, what does this do? Well, it has 180 HP. That's a standard EX HP count. Most of them tend to have been 170, 180 HP over the years, so nothing too shocking there. And it's 2 attacks. We have Water Pulse, 1 water and a colorless for 30 damage. Put your opponent's active Pokemon to sleep. That's a handy thing to have. I've used this deck a handful of times, putting my opponent's active to sleep, even early game. Can usually buy me a turn or two to get fully set up if I've stalled a little bit, or if they're moving a little bit quicker than I am. Second attack, 2 water, 2 colorless for Giant Whirlpool. 140 damage, return 2 water energy attached to this Pokemon to your hand. Okay, getting 2 energy back into your hand, not great, but seeing as your Primal Kyogre has the Alpha Growth trait, 2 energy in your hand isn't necessarily a terrible thing in this deck. So, using that attack can help you put 140 damage on the board, maybe take a cheap knockout in a Shaman, and you can drop the Primal next turn, and there you go, you start hitting again, you can get your 2 energy back down the board, and you're having a great time. So, that'll move us on to the Primal Kyogre EX. First thing I want to note about this card is it's got a HP of 240. That's a big number. 240 HP can be quite hard to hit for a lot of decks. Now, it does have a weakness to grass. We saw that Vespiquen did have a good time at hitting big HP water type Pokemon that were weak to grass, like Wailord, like Seismitoad, and equally Primal Kyogre EX will have a tough time taking on Vespiquen. However, with Karen coming into play very, very shortly, Vespiquen may die off quickly, and if you can tech a Karen into your deck, if you have a Vespiquen weakness, then suddenly your bad matchup can become very, very good very, very quickly. So that's the Kyogre line sorted out anyway. The next Pokemon that we have is Manaphy EX. So I run 2 of these, and there's only one reason I'm running this. It's for its Aqua Tube ability, that each Pokemon in play, that has a water energy attached to it, has no retreat cost. So I'm running a water deck that has high retreat costs in a lot of its Pokemon. I'm going to want to retreat quickly and efficiently without having to discard loads of energy. Manaphy lets me do that. Yes, Hexmaniac can hurt you, Garbodor can hurt you, but Garbodor can hurt a lot of things, Hexmaniac can hurt a lot of things. And even if you only have 2 water energy on your Primal Kyogre up top, you could still abuse Alpha Growth to still get an attack off, even if you can't spin off the damage, or spin off the active. And if you have damage on you, it's likely that you're going to get knocked out, but hey, yeah, you're going to take knockouts every now and again anyway, so they could equally just Lysander you and take the knockout anyway. So that's why Manaphy's in the deck. The next card I want to talk about in the deck is Shaman EX, another Pokemon included solely for its ability, setup. We've all seen Shaman getting played now since it came out. Straightforward, drop it, draw until you have 6 cards. Great way to help you get set up, good acceleration, and can really help you power through your deck early game, or get through your deck late game if you need to dig for something important. There's only 2 more Pokemon in the deck, and it's a 1 count of each. The first is Hoopa EX, with the ability Scoundrel Ring. This is seen play in a lot of decks that rely heavily on EX cards, so I've drawn it in here because I'm running a lot of EX cards. So when you drop this from your hand onto your bench, you may search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon EX and put them into your hand. Well, excluding Hoopa EX. is also written on the card. But in this deck, it can be incredible to hit first turn off an Ultra Ball because you can dig for 2 Kyogres and a Shaman, or a Manaphy Kyogre and a Shaman, or whatever combination EXs you want to get, or what you think you need for whatever's facing you on your own board and the board opposite from you. So 1 Hoopy EX goes into the deck basically just for setup reasons. The final Pokemon is Articuno with the ability, well, the ancient trait, Delta Plus. So similar to Plasma Lugia EX from a few years ago, when this Pokemon takes a knockout, you take an extra prize card. So you knock out an EX, you get 3, you knock out a non-EX, you get 2. This saw a lot of play to deal with Night March matchups when I first saw it come into meta, and it worked pretty well. But it's gone in here for basically to have a non-EX attacker for 1, and 2, it can pick up a lot of prizes on damaged Pokemon to help you pick up maybe 3 prizes off an EX that's already got a lot of damage on it, or pick up 2 prizes on a basic if you want to just take a quick knockout early game, late game, in case they haven't got EXs on their bench. So that's why Articuno goes into the deck. So that's it for the Pokemon count. Next we're going to move on to the trainers, specifically the supporters. Now I'm going to do a very quick overview of these guys. We're all fairly familiar with what they all do. A lot of them have been around for a long time. So starting off, we have Professor Sycamore. Everybody should know what he does at this stage, but in case you don't, discard your entire hand, draw until you have 7 cards. Straightforward, helps draw acceleration, really good draw supporter, and I put 4 generally in every deck I build, and I don't think I dropped any less unless I desperately had to. The next supporter that we're looking at is N. Now N got a reprint in Fates Collide, and a lot of people were delighted to see it come back. I'm not his biggest fan. There's other supporters from days gone by that I'd be happier to see reprinted, but I can't deny that N is an unbelievably reliable draw support card, and a card that you can use to message your opponent early game if maybe you've given them a lot of mulligan draws, or late game if they're down to 1 prize and you only have 2 prizes left to take, that you can end them to 1 and maybe stall them out if they needed 2 or 3 cards in their hand in order to guarantee themselves victory. So N goes in for the same reason N goes into every deck: reliability. The next supporter that we have is Lysander. Again, it's been out since Flashfire. Wasn't a big fan of it when it first came out because it was off the back of the rule change for Pokemon Catcher. But this effectively does the same thing. Effectively, it actually does the exact same thing that Catcher did before its rules got changed. You get to switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. Do I need to explain how effective this is? You can hit Shamans and take 2 prizes. You can take a damaged Pokemon off the bench and knock it out and take the prize that way. You can lock your opponent out if they have a heavy retreat Pokemon. The possibilities are endless, and it's such a useful card that I put 2 in every deck as well. So that's the multiple supporter line. The next 4 supporters are all 1 copy of each, and the first one is Ninja Boy. So we saw this come out in the most recent set, Steam Siege, and when I first saw it announced, I was so excited at the idea of this card because I think it could be used in a lot of fun ways as well as productive ways. So I've put Ninja Boy into this deck in case maybe I open with Hoopa, or I open with Shaman, I want to get in the back of my deck, or I have a Shaman on my bench, I want to get out of the way so it can't get KO'd or Lysandered. A Hoopa, maybe I want to put back in my deck so I can use it again. It's just to get what you don't want out of the way and get what you do want into play, so you can keep trucking through what you want to do, get your deck functioning at the best it can function, and start taking a lot of wins. And that's basically it. Like, Ninja Boy's there just to get cards out of the way, and that's what I like about it. The next supporter, Hex Maniac. This has been around for a while, so we all know what it does. Shuts down abilities for a turn until the end of your opponent's next turn. This can be great early on if you don't maybe get the start you want. You can Hex and stop your opponent digging with Shamans or Hoopas or any other abilities like that. Helps against frogs. You can stop their abilities if anyone's brave enough to run frogs in a format where if one Garbodor comes into play, they can't do anything about it really, except try and Lysander and kill it, and then something might come up and kill their Greninja. So yeah, Hex goes in for a lot of reasons again. Just want to shut down abilities, slow down, or prevent opponents from carrying out their abilities against you, effectively. Only 2 more supporters to go through now. We've got Pokemon Ranger, another new card. Remove all effects of attacks on each player and his or her Pokemon. The main reason I've included this card into this deck is in case of Regice, which a lot of guys in my local league have been talking up. Now, if you're brave enough to run a Regice deck in the hope that you won't come across this card, I commend you. And if you can make it work in the face of this card, fair play. Because Regice is a scary prospect for EX decks that don't run this card. In that, if your opponent has 1 Regice active and all you have are EXs and you don't run Pokemon Ranger, they're just going to keep attacking you until everything you own dies and you can do nothing about it. Simple as. Unless you somehow, I don't know, manage to convince your opponent not to attack for a turn. That's the only way I can think that you're going to beat that deck without Ranger. The final card, supporter card, is Fisherman. So this is in the event that maybe you've discarded a lot of energy for Ultra Balls, or had a Kyogre knocked out on you that had a lot of energy on it, and you want to get a few energy into your hand to start using Alpha Growth on a different Kyogre. So you get 4 energy cards, basic energy cards from your discard pile, and put them into your hand. Like I said, 4 into your hand. You can drop 2 of them straight away with Alpha Growth, which is very, very useful in that your opponent might think you have nothing going on, and then if you drop a Fisherman, suddenly a lot can change to them and you're starting to put damage again onto their board, and like before, spin energy onto the bench. Next up, I'm going to talk through the only stadium card I'm running in this, and I'd say it was fairly obvious from the go, once you saw that it was Kyogre, that the stadium would be Rough Seas. So I'm running 3 Rough Seas in this deck. Having played against it in a lot of decks like Straight Toad and against Frogs, this card is very frustrating to see for as the opponent, because your opponent is healing their Pokemon without having to play a single card from their hand, and there's nothing you can do about it. So they can retreat to the bench. If you can't Lysander up the damaged Pokemon, they're just going to keep it there until suddenly all the damage is gone, and you have to start from scratch and try and knock it out all over again. So Rough Seas can make a 240 HP Pokemon much harder to knock out, especially if you manage to spin it onto the bench and stay there for a couple of turns. So it just gives your opponent a bad time in trying to take knockouts. Next we go on to the item cards, and a lot of these seem fairly straightforward, and you might ask why I'm bothering to mention them in the deck, but they're in there, so I'm going to talk through them. So first up, 4VS Seeker. This card has gone into every deck I've built since it's come out. I have 4 of them. Search your discard pile for a supporter card, put it into your hand. You can then use said supporter, so you can get a Lysander to take something up for the win. You get a Sycamore that can help you dig through your deck. You can hit Hex Maniac to stop your opponent's abilities. You can hit Ranger maybe to get that Regice out of the way. There's a lot of things you can do, and VS Seeker just gives you access to more resources when you need them, and as you need them, as long as they're in your discard pile. The next item card is Ultra Ball, and again, 4 of these. Discard 2 cards, search your deck for any Pokemon. Early game, you're going for Hoopa, so you can go through and get a lot of EXs. Maybe late game, you're going for a Primal Kyogre or a Shaman to dig. Maybe you're looking to get the Articuno out of your deck. It can get every Pokemon out of your deck. You run 4 of them. Realistically, I've used 2, maybe 3 a game. So if you hit 2 in a game, you tend to be doing alright. So yeah, 4 of them go in the deck, purely for search reasons. The next card is one that has skyrocketed in popularity since rotation, and it's Max Elixir. So a lot of people should be familiar with this, but just in case you're not, look at the top 6 cards of your deck, attach a basic energy you find there to a basic Pokemon on your bench, shuffle your deck afterwards. This card offers so much acceleration to so many decks, be they EX decks or not, that you could in one turn drop 4 energy onto the field, and suddenly your opponent is looking at a stacked field and going, I need to do something about this quick, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. Max Elixir is amazing in this deck. It can help you set up one or two Primal Kyogres that, or one or two basic Kyogres that when they become Primals are suddenly ready to hit anyway because, again, alpha growth. So that's it for the 4 count trainers, well, items. We're going to move on to the ones that are below that. So to start off with, it's another card that I don't think people are going to be too surprised to see on this deck list. It's Kyogre Spirit Link. Straightforward explanation for this, kind of obvious. When I evolve to Primal Kyogre, I don't want my turn to end. I want probably attack or drop energy or something like that. So Spirit Link stops my turn ending, basically. And that's all it's in there for. Drop it on the Kyogre, evolve, keep going. The next item card is 2 copies of Dive Ball. Again, it's a search card, but only lets me search for water Pokemon. But in the deck where only 3 of the Pokemon I run are not water Pokemon, that's handy to have. Maybe I want to get a Manaphy so I can get my retreats going. Maybe I want to dig for a Primal. Or maybe I want to dig for another baby basic Kyogre just to start setting it up on the bench. So 2 Dive Ball going to the deck for that. Next up is 2 Energy Retrieval. In for the same reason as Fisherman. I want energy out of my discard pile in case I've had something knocked out, so I can abuse Alpha Growth, get 2 energy onto the board, and start going. Not much needs to be said on Energy Retrieval. It's just there to get stuff back out of the bin. The last item card is a 1 count, and it's Professor's Letter. So when this card, sorry for the flub, first came out, I first teched it into Blastoise. So that's how far back I've been using this card. It's such a good card. Search your deck for 2 basic energy, reveal and put them into your hand. Like, it completely trumped the only other 2 options you had back at the time, which was Energy Search and Silent. I'm probably saying that name wrong, but anyway. Item card, get 2 energies, just go. This card is so handy. I've played it in a couple of games, and to get 2 energy in your hand and suddenly drop for Alpha Growth can turn a board that has virtually nothing on it to a board that can hit and start accelerating energy onto the bench all over again. So that's everything done bar the energy, and if you've been keeping track of the counts, you'll know that there's 12 spaces left in the deck, and all 12 of those spaces go to basic water energy. So you might put in the comments arguing that maybe 1 or 2 splash energy wouldn't hurt, but I'm running 12 basic energy because I'm running Max Elixir. That gives me good odds of hitting a water energy every time I play Max Elixir. That's what I want. I'm playing the Max Elixir to hit the water energy every time. You could argue that 10 water energy is enough for that. I like to go overboard because all the energy in this deck is useful. It can all go to any Pokemon in the deck, and that's what I like about it. Maybe I could take in 1 or 2 splash energy, but it can't go on Hoopa if I need to free retreat it out, and that's all I have in my hand. Can't go to Shaman for the same reason. It can only go on to Manaphy or Kyogre. The basic water energy, all it has to do is go on to any Pokemon. I can use Manaphy's ability, and I can still use my attacks. It would be nice to get stuff back into my hand after it's knocked out, but my opponent still takes the prizes anyway, and I lose the cards attached to it, so I'd lose the Spirit Link or whatever. So I'm going to stick with the basic water energy for now. So that's the deck in its whole. If you guys want to build it and try it out at your local league, and let me know how you get on in the comments below. I'm going to try and run this now this week at my local league and record a few matches with it, and hopefully give you guys some commentary on those matches during the week. That's it for this deck analysis, so stay tuned for more content, hopefully in the coming days. And thanks for watching. Remember to like, favorite, subscribe this video. And one final thing before I go, if you haven't already done it, check out my friend Joe Yates on the Woopercast channel. He does weekly podcasts and other cool vids, a lot of deck analysis. Very smart player. I love talking to him a lot about what's going on in the metagame, because I find he has this knack of just finding that little 1 or 2 card tweak to make a very good deck into a great deck for whatever meta we're in. So that's all the talking I'm going to do for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!